I'm Regina Ainsworth. I am primarily a director, indie director, freelance, DGA director, which means I do theater, I do on camera, I do dubbing, and then I also produce, I write, I act, but primarily I direct. Honestly, when I first started storytelling, I probably was setting up like puppet theater with my brother when I was a kid. But when I actually staked a claim, because I'm Chicana, and indigenous, I'm a mixed breed as most Americans are, you don't realize that that's a path. So you have no idea that this is something you could actually do for full-time living. So I think I didn't stake my claim until I was actually 20 in college, like my first year at university. I went to Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo for my undergrad, and originally to be an ag science teacher. And I was also a dancer growing up, so I was already a dance minor, and they said, oh, okay, you can't take another dance class or that kind of a performing arts. It has to be something different. So I said, okay, well, I guess I'll take acting. That was available. I thought it was a lot of fun. And then one of my professors was Dr. Michael Malkin, and he created the not the Muppets, Fraggle Rock specifically. Yeah, he was a mega puppeteer. So he created Fraggle Rock with Jim Henson. And that's when I started realizing, oh, there is a potential pathway here. He was probably one of my earlier mentors. Then later on down the road, I did eventually find myself at Jim Henson Studios, but more so exploring the way the volume filmmaking works. So yeah, I did a quick throwback to him at the time, but overall, no, I mean, I've really forged a lot of the pathway on my own, and 'cause there is no clear pathway for that per se. Like, it's not like you go to school to become a doctor and you just, if you take these exams and these boards, eventually you become a doctor. It's not that way at all. And I kind of like that in some regard, that there's so many different ways that you can come to the same conclusion. So you can't discount anyone from the crew or from the cast. You never know where a good idea is going to come from. And many of those people that are tangential may end up eventually being in the director's chair or producer. So I think you just have to be open to that. I ended up double majoring. I majored in ag science, and they had just started the theater arts as a major. So I double majored, I minored in dance, and I did voice. So I did like choir, Cal Poly choirs. And then I got to where you have to make a decision what you're going to do. I studied abroad for a year in London, experimental theater, musical theater, just everything I could get involved, dance, and be part of that through the University of London Union. And then I realized, okay, there's definitely a major world for this. So maybe I'll just go into theater and see what happens. So I started auditioning. I was like, okay, I have a penchant for performance. I also, at the same time, I was writing, directing. It was just whatever you could do to be on stage. I knew that I was good in the crafts as well, but I knew that I was stronger as a collaborator. So for me, that translated to more performance-based and directing people. I think I started directing about the same time I started acting. But again, like, that's not something that I didn't have any like a visible person that made me think, okay, well, I can also be a director. So actor seemed a natural segue. I migrated down to just starting to audition for people. I ended up landing at the PCPA Conservatory Theater, which is in Santa Maria. It's called now the Pacific Conservatory Theater, but it's where Robin Williams and Kathy Bates got their start, and Zac Efron, the first place that they ever went. So you had to audition, and I think in my class, it was like 3,500 people that you had to beat out to come down to like 12 women and 12 men or something like that. Yeah. So then it's a conservatory program. And primarily acting track was for me, but I also wrote, produced, and directed while I was there. And then eventually I came down to LA because I realized that regional theater and theater wasn't enough of an audience for the stories I wanted to tell. But again, I didn't know how to do that because I knew nobody here. So I ended up temping. I didn't go like the traditional, restaurant tier route. I just temped and found my way to Warner Brothers via like temp agencies, and I was acting when I could. But I eventually landed in a department in Warner Brothers Television that helped oversee all of the different shows. So for almost a decade, I was sort of rising through the rank as a studio exec, overseeing television shows. And I would say probably a good, oh gosh, over 200. I counted at one point. So every episode produced for almost a decade. So I learned, I would say that was really my filmmaking. I didn't go to film school, so that was my filmmaking path, was actually learning, how it from the business sense, and then going on to set as often as I could, under the guise of being a producer and having real work there. So I'd say that's probably like the Spielberg route of things where you sort of just snuck on set. But I made friends with a number of the security guards. And of course, like, I was legit there for my television department. So, I would stay late after I got done working, or sneak onto set, during lunch, and I was welcome there. But that's really where I started to learn some of the filmmaking aspect. And then concurrently, I was starting my own projects and, little writing groups, and eventually like shot my first, like a pilot, spec pilot to try to sell back to the company, which we did pitch. It was interesting. But at the end of the day, you just have to forge your own path, I think. I think the actor to director track is a really solid one because you have the opportunity to learn the craft by observing, but also by experiencing. So a number of directors may direct you a certain way, that is not necessarily specific to what the actor needs. So like, I know how to speak actor now. I know how to very quickly get into, depending on the style of the performer, because you break down all the different types of methods that people work. Sometimes you can directly just be like, that was a 5. Could you get that to 7 for me? Or, maybe they play with colors. Maybe they're more, most actors I would say are very much more action verb oriented. So you learn how to speak the language, and then just realizing what kind of collaboration it is when you give an actor the opportunity to really like show up with you to form what it is you have in your head to create the great work, because you're doing it in partnership and in collaboration with them. And I think that that is where you're going to find, and for all the crafts, truthfully, that's where you're going to find the most reward and return for something that is truly a collective art form. But as an actor, I would say like a lot of times actors are treated like they don't have a say, or they don't know their character, or they're more like in the pawns, like, okay, I need you to move here and move there. But if you give them some of the reins to say, okay, this is where I'd like you to start, I think that it looks like this, let's see where your impetus takes you, it gives them the opportunity to have ownership in their character and move through the space to create something sometimes even greater than what you initially saw. And it's an additive. That's really a fantastic question. I've read thousands of scripts at this point, like thousands and thousands, in the tens of thousands, probably even. And I've written several hundred myself, short, long, everything, every type of thing. I would say that for me, it's painting the world very clearly and having very specific character voices that are true to the authentic story that you're telling. So the clearer that you can differentiate each character in the dialogue, primarily, I think that's what makes it stand out for me. What tends to make me cringe when I read it is honestly when there's like camera direction and stuff that I think really pulls you apart from what the story is, and trying to control or dictate how you want me to tell your story. I think you have to trust that the audience and the reader is really going to hear you and what you're trying to achieve if you can find that modality within the dialogue of those different human beings that you brought to life on the page. Done cleverly, stage direction can be an asset. Not done cleverly, it can make your script real clunky and also hard to get through. But I always lean back onto like what are your passionate what is it that you're passionate about, because that for me is also an indicator of like how well that is going to come across on page. If you're trying to write something that's just generic for the audience because you think it will sell, it always flops. If you're writing from your own point of view and perspective, of something that you were really into or you've had a personal experience, that seems to always jump off the page too. I would say that, again, it's a team sport. Good ideas can come from anywhere, but you also have to realize that you have to be super prepared and the one that is leading the charge. So it's important that you have to be efficient with your time, efficient with everybody that's on set, but also collaborative in a way that you empower everybody to do their best work. So I was able to see a lot of that. In some really like great direction. I also saw the antithesis to that, where folks that maybe have been given the opportunity would just sit back at Video Village, or speaking specifically to directorial point of view, don't engage with their actors. They're watching performance. They're not coming prepared with any kind of script notes or anything to like help them stage or guide those performers who are like very raw out in the middle of 50 to 100 to 200 people crew. So I can also get where actors can become divas or problematic. It's not necessarily that they are, it's just that they've been mistreated. So for me, it's just about finding the way to be as prepared as you can be within the given circumstances, and then be a clear communicator, and then stepping up. When I'm on set, I'm at camera. I don't, for the most part, sit at Video Village unless I need to check something, but usually they give you like a monitor. You can ask for a monitor that's handheld. And so I stand right by the DP or right by like the camera person. And, I can see their frame. I can see what's happening in the monitor, but I'm ultimately experiencing it with them. And also, if there is a note to give, I can, in between takes or setups, walk over to them and quietly talk to them about whatever it is that can help them with their performance. I just think there's been a lot of nuance lost because there's a lot of ego to be had about, oh, I'm running this thing, and that I just got to sit in my director's chair at Video Village. And I think that's so sad. I will say I've done a few, actually. The last thing that I did pitch was called Recombined. And it's a sci-fi based off of the Tankborn trilogy novels that I co-own the rights to, that I co-wrote with the writer. I would say and we shot a short proof of concept. You want to come in with as much, I don't want to say like explanation, but as much visual armor as you can in a short amount of time to like really set you up for success. A good deck is really key to helping walk people through the process of what you see and being as specific as you can. I will say that for the most part, everything is still shifting in terms of who is willing to greenlight projects, what they're willing to take risk on. And I think that it is still very closed in terms of you have to have a strong manager or agent to even get you in the room to have yourself truly be considered, or be a part of have a team that includes a producer that has an overall deal with said studio. Now that's still like the traditional model of things. I think things are definitely shifting now, and the indie folk are having a little bit of an uprising, which is kind of exciting. As a director, I definitely utilize table reads. I think it's important to have the script is your biggest guideline. So I think it's important to have the script be as solid as you can. I would say I have probably participated in 5 or 6 projects as a director where we did table read the script first. Um, and also, I will say that whether or not you table read the script, getting a small group of your friends together just to read out loud, or at the very least, you're reading it out loud so that you can hear like some of the ebbs and the flows and the nuance, is really key. So I think the table read of a script is extremely valuable. It's part of the developmental process in order to, really make it be the best that it can be. I'm thinking that the International Screenwriters Association table read my screenplay pathway is really important. I think that it brings to light our contemporary screenwriters, whether that be, they're getting pilots or full screenplays produced. I think in this climate, it's not only is it highly important that we're putting it up on its feet. And so what we've been doing is, I was grateful to have been selected to help review the finalists and then give my opinion in terms of who I felt were the strongest contender or the best script. And then that person in this case was for the screenplay Rock Bottom. There was one other screenplay and 2 pilots that were sort of the finalists, and they were all very good. This particular script really spoke to me personally, but it also, I felt like it was just the strongest out of the group. So then we've had the opportunity to cast with, real actors that are working in the industry that do, stage and do film and television. And the past few days we've been in rehearsal to create a shortened version. So it's about half of the script that we're putting up. 51 pages anyway of it. And we'll perform it in front of a live audience tomorrow night. So it's a very fast process, but I think it's still extremely valuable in terms of just, one, for the screenwriter to be able to see how it does. But it's another, what I was telling to the group of actors that I've cast, is that it's another way, like we've created sort of an IP here just by being able to put it up on its feet and have it be live with a live audience, and that everyone's put so much effort behind it. And with these interviews and whatever media is out there, it's already been, I think Hollywood is very risk averse, which is why you see still so much to do with like Gladiator 2 or, like the sequels and the prequels. That's a built-in audience. So it is a lot about creating a safety net where things have been properly vetted and there's a built-in audience for. And I honestly believe that this is an invaluable tool that ISA is given to the people that win, because this is something not only for actual feedback, but Nelson can now take this also to producers, or perhaps I would attach myself and be like, hey, this is the body that we've already received. Look at the traction of ISA, how many scripts came out of that, and this is the best one. That's a stamp of approval. So I think it's really rad. I just love the theater. That's where I started anyway. So for me to be able to, go back to that and to sort of have a non-traditional pathway to help such great work be produced, I find it very exciting.
How's it been going so far?
I love it. Actually, it's been going really great. I think the performers are all on point. I think the script is working. I love the fact that we're going to have, it be live tomorrow. And I'm very excited. I'm very excited for that, to see how, and every day the actors have been getting better. So I think it'll be a lot of fun tomorrow. It was such a phenomenal night. Thank you, ISA, for everything you've done to put Nelson's Rock Bottom up on its feet. It was a fantastic performance by so many talented people, and I just felt supported every step of the way in such a collaborative environment. I'm kind of riding a high right now because it was so much fun, but I just got to enjoy it tonight, and the fruit of our collective labors. I just hope we can find a way to get it financed and get it made. I think it's such a great script, so I'm very excited about what are the next steps behind it. The audience absolutely loved it. Here's the thing. With such a limited rehearsal time, I wasn't sure, because you're juggling scripts, I wasn't sure if I would be pushing too far, because you want to strike a balance. But I was like, these actors are actors, they're stage performers. I knew that they could do something to this level, and they really did an extraordinary job. So hats off to everybody in the entire team, and Molly, and just all the support. And look at this poster, phenomenal. Yeah, Nelson, you killed it, buddy. It is such a special script. You're such an incredible human being. I can't wait to be able to collaborate with you again. Maybe on this, I hope on this, if not many future projects, but Mazel Tov, kudos. It's just amazing. So thank you for being part of it and trusting me with your work.